Greetings. This is going to be a part 2 on company and connection. All right, so also speaking about conditioning versus deconditioning, authentic connections versus inauthentic connections, karmics versus soulmates. So karmics bring irritation. They're meant to instigate, and they're a very important part of the process. That being said, once we have enough conflict, once we experience enough things to chisel away, and we go through the refinement process, the becoming and unbecoming and becoming and unbecoming process, the conditioning, deconditioning, dogma, being rigid, going through fixed mentalities, and then having the whole foundation shaken up. Once we get through all of the clutter, the mutt, the ancestral clutter, the familial, the societal conditioning, all of those things, our own stories based off of our own experiences, and those that were also imprinted upon us on birth, just so you guys know, we are actually born with our parents' trauma. So some people can have like a perfect childhood, a seemingly perfect situation, and yet they can always feel an abandonment wound. And it's like, why? You know, my parents have always been there for me. They've always been loving to me. Well, you know, perhaps your mother, when she was carrying you, felt abandonment from your father and didn't feel like she had the support while she was carrying you. And so even though you were born into this world with maybe really present parents that were there for you, you can feel that abandonment wound that your mother had when she didn't feel that there was enough support on your father's end emotionally, etc., etc. And it can go vice versa. This is just an example that I'm speaking out. So all of these things are present. So part 2, I just really wanted to get into this because I felt like the first one was a lot of channeled messages. So the premises is that we seek company when we lack connection. And yet when we find connection, we happen to attract the appropriate company. And this also ties into many things, but I have 10 ways to handle it. And basically this is 10 ways to handle karmics, inauthentic connections, heartbreak, because it really is a heartbreaking process. In fact, I kept hearing the song Heart Attack by Trey Songz, and he's like, even here inside these walls, breaking each other's hearts, we don't care because we're in too deep, can't think about giving it up, but I never knew love would feel like a heart attack. It's killing me, swear I never cried so much, because I never knew love would hurt this bad, the worst pain that I ever had. So some of, you know, I've been through some things. And that's not for this video, but I've been through many things that most people don't actually get to live and talk about after. And I have experienced the lowest of lows multiple times in my life, and I've also experienced some quite euphoric highs. And those experiences, on top of my education, on top of many other things, is, you know, the accumulation of what I'm sharing in this video. And I will just share from my own personal experience because that's all that I can do. And what I have experienced is that it really has to take physical, mental, spiritual. There has to be a component of all three. And for me, powerlifting, like I love riding horses, I love dance, but I had to transmute the karma. I had to transmute the anger. I had to transmute the hurt, the pain that I experienced from previous relationships. And I also had to transform my being, because one of the most important things that I'm going to speak about here and how we arrive at that true, deep authenticity that allows us to attract healthy and appropriate company from finding the connection within requires that we kill our old self, metaphorically speaking, but also on a cellular level. And that's what working out does. You break down the old cells, they get stronger, they build new cells. So for many, you know, having a disciplined exercise routine, I personally feel is paramount. It is absolutely paramount. Especially to the full evolution process, you know, to really commit to yourself is also another piece of this. Oftentimes, one is not fully committed to themselves, and because of that, they seek company and they seek distraction in that company, and then they get further and further away from connection because they have never met themselves. They're never going to attract a company that is actually, in alignment with them. And so then they'll always walk around with this wound. Why am I never chosen? Why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? And Meanwhile, God is here like, hello, I made you to do all these things and you're not doing those things. So like if you're not doing the things that your body was designed to do, that your heart and soul was put in this incarnation, this lifetime to fulfill, if you're not doing those things, then you're never going to meet your people. It's like you're an accountant sitting at a desk, but you love gymnastics growing up, you love dance, you're supposed to be an acrobatic, you're supposed to be doing, Cirque du Soleil shows. You're never going to meet your tribe sitting in that accountant office, so there's some of you that can be experiencing something similar. It's like you're stuck in something because it's safe, because society has deemed it to be the right path for you, but in your heart it's not cutting it. It's not it. So, okay, 10 ways to handle rejection, isolation, tower moments, situations where you feel like you're getting further and further from connection, regardless of the amount of company that you keep. So number 1 is reading, expanding the boundaries of your mind. So many times, it is truly our thoughts, that limit us, that create a cage around what's possible. Reading is it's one of the most just like overlooked. I feel like so many people talk about reading, but it's like, do you really sit down and read? And it's so easy, guys, to just do like a 5-minute timer, to just start. If you're not someone who reads every day, and once you do start reading every day, it's like exercise. You crave it. It's not something that you have to do. It's something that you're like, I can't wait to do this. I wish I had like 30 minutes longer. And you then create time for it, because we make time for what matters most to us. And that's the other part of this. So reading, expanding the boundaries of your mind is a great way to punch through that sadness. Exercise, working out, like I said, transmuting, getting the body to sweat, truly transmute the physical essence. It's like you soak in the energy of all the people you're around. So if you're in an entanglement with a job, with a relationship, with a person, you have to sweat that out, truly sweat it out. You can't just do the mental work, the emotional work, the spiritual work. You have to do physical shifts around it to really rinse the energy and invite a whole new way of being. Number 2, exploring new worlds physically. So that also involves exercise, but this is also traveling, meeting different cultures. You could be someone who you've never met your people, because your person, your soulmate and your soulmate tribe and your soul family could be a totally different human race than you, a different color than you. They could speak a different language than you. And you've always had a desire to learn new languages, but you've never really allowed yourself to journey there. And so if you stayed with this one soulmate, if you stayed with this one person, this one job, it would be such a disservice to you and the expansion of your evolution. And yet it can be painful and heartbreaking in this moment, but truly see that it's inviting you into a whole new world to break that paradigm. Number 3, learning a new skill. So for me, I had this stream of time that was really difficult for me, and every single year I learned a new skill. I focused on hula hooping one year, I focused on pole sport one year, I focused on my harp, and I still do all these things and I incorporate them together, but it was like every year I was learning a new skill. Slacklining, tightrope walking, which I think is one of the best ways to mitigate this, because it really, for me, it's the ultimate meditation, because it's like when you tie up that string from tree to tree, nothing makes that string, nothing makes that line move except for your own that you bring to the line. So if you put your foot on that tightrope and it's all over the place, it's like instant confrontation, confronting you with your own shit. And that's what I love about the slackline so much. It is so powerful for that. Number 4, refining old skills, revisiting old skills, things that you put in the drawer and you're like, oh no, I'm too old for that. No, that's what I did as a kid. Yeah, I used to do that. Well, maybe you could be a coach for that. Maybe you could teach technique for that. Maybe you could actually still get into that and completely revitalize yourself and replenish yourself by restoring that skill. Number 5, reminding yourself of all the years that you lived without a person, a place, a setting, something in your life without even knowing of its existence, and reminding yourself of times when you relished in total happiness without even knowing that that thing existed. So it's like you can kind of go back to that feeling space. The 6th, I already said, physical movement. 7 is acknowledging or giving something a proper burial, proper grief. Oftentimes we can't release something because we haven't allowed ourselves to fully feel something. And so for that, I really like Osho dynamic meditation. You can go to YouTube and search in Osho dynamic meditation. Many people have different videos of different lengths explaining the 5 series, the 5 parts of Osho dynamic. And there also are playlists on YouTube for it. Number 10 is serving, volunteering, as showing up for others. Number 9 was animals. A lot of energy can be transmuted, and a lot of grief can be moved through the human vessel, through a connection with the animal kingdom. And number 12 is reinventing yourself. You have to totally kill who you used to be to become who you are meant to be, who you are becoming in this lifetime, who Spirit has brought you here to become. Also, learning an instrument was another one on here. Learning the harp has allowed me to express feelings and share things that words never could. There's a quote that says something like, if I could say what I need to say, then there'd be no reason for dancing. It's the same with musical instruments. There's just a different language to it. I love you guys. Hit me up for a personal reading.